Good morning to you all. In the previous class, we have studied about the electric flux, and in electric flux, we have learnt about its definition and formula. The definition says that the number of electric field lines passing through a given surface gives you the electric flux to that surface. And you can calculate that flux by integral of E dot ds, where E is the electric field and ds is the small area vector of the surface through which the flux length needed to be calculated. In this lecture, we'll be studying about the Gauss's law and its application. So let's start. Before studying up the Gauss's law, you people must be familiar with some continuous charge distributions. That what actually continuous charge distribution means and what is its significance. So the continuous charge distribution is the distribution of charge over a given specific object, maybe lengthwise, maybe area-wise, or maybe volume-wise. Till now, we have studied only about the discrete charges. The point charges, they are placed somewhere and we are working on them. But what is the case if large number of charges are distributed in some fashion over certain objects? Then what is the strategy to go through and how we can move ahead when we are given that amount of charge present on an object? So based on this thing, we need to learn about the continuous charge distribution. And the first thing that we need to learn is the linear charge density. It is denoted by lambda. The definition of linear charge density says that it is the charge per unit length. So for example, if we are having a conductor, which is a straight wire, and on that straight wire, large amount of charge is distributed linearly. So what we will be doing, we will be taking a quantity that is linear charge density lambda, the charge distributed in its unit length. And that can be mathematically defined as lambda is equal to Q upon L, where Q is the charge present on length L. All right. So if L is the length of the object and it is having charge Q, then the linear charge density can be defined as Q by L. Please write these things in your notebook along with, so that you will be having a clear understanding of the things that we are talking. At least write up the formula, so that when we'll be doing up the derivations, you people will easily be getting and retrieving those formulas from your notebook and won't have to look back. So this linear charge density is the charge distributed per unit length. So in length L, if total amount of charge is Q, then linear charge density can be written as Q by L. So if someone asks you that what is the amount of charge present in length L, then you can easily multiply this lambda with L and you'll get the value of Q. So Q is the amount of charge that is present in length L. The SI unit of linear charge density is coulomb per meter. Its SI unit says that it is coulomb per meter, coulomb for the charge and meter for the length. All right. Likewise, we are also having the surface charge density, and it is denoted by sigma. The surface charge density can be defined as the charge per unit surface area. So if you are given one area and on that area, large amount of charge is distributed, then the surface charge density can be defined as the charge per unit area. So sigma, it becomes Q by A, where Q is the charge present in area A. Earlier we were dealing with discrete charges only, but now a large amount of charge is present on some object, then the manner in which the charge is distributed, it is defined by the continuous charge distribution patterns, and we are having three quantities to define these things. One is the linear charge density, that is lambda, charge present per unit length. Other one is the surface charge density, that is the charge present per unit area. And the last one is volume charge density. Before going towards the volume charge density, I should be telling you about the SI unit of this sigma. And yes, Navidita has asked a question, so let me answer her first. Yes, Navidita, go ahead.
So your screen is not visible.
It's what screen? I have already shared it.
So it is not visible.
Is it not visible to you only or to others also?
I don't know, sir.
Okay,
But
maybe
it's complete black in me, black in my screen.
maybe you are having some network issues. Others are able to see it quite clearly, I do believe. So I'll be just asking others if they are able to see it or not. So I'll be just unmuting all of you. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
all others are able to see. It's because of your network issues. Please check up your internet connection. All right.
Okay, sir.
So let's move towards the surface charge density. The SI unit of the surface charge density is coulomb per meter square. Coulomb is for cube and meter square for area. So you can easily be saying it this thing that it is if the charge is present over a surface, then that amount of charge can be calculated by multiplying this area with the surface charge density. If you know the surface charge density of a surface, you can easily be calculating the charge present in that surface by multiplying that surface charge density with the area of the surface. Similarly, we are also having one more quantity, and that quantity is volume charge density. And this volume charge density, it is denoted by rho. It is defined as the charge per unit volume. So if we are having some object that has some volume and the charge is distributed over its volume, then the amount of charge present in the unit volume is known as the volume charge density. And it is defined as, mathematically, you can write it as Q by V, where V stands for volume. This V is for volume, not potential. It is V for volume. So rho is equal to Q by V, where V is the volume and Q is the charge present in volume V. So if someone asks you that find the amount of charge present in volume V, you just multiply the volume charge density with the volume of the object. You will be getting the charge. The SI unit for rho is coulomb per meter cube. The SI unit is coulomb per meter cube. So these three formulae you people need to learn as well as their SI unit. What is linear charge density, what is surface charge density, and what is volume charge density, along with the formula. Please write in your notebook. We will be using this linear charge density when we will be discussing the application of the Gauss law in the next slides to come. So we'll be using it. So then I'll be asking you over there. So please just refer your notebook at that time, and then we will be easily writing the value of charge enclosed by a given surface. I do hope it is very much clear to you. And still, if you are having some doubts, please raise hand. Also, I'll be giving you 10-20 minutes at the end of the lecture so that you people can easily be asking me your doubts. One more thing that I want to tell you is that if the meeting ends in between, please join with the same meeting ID and the password. I'll be resuming the meeting if it ends after 40 minutes. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Then moving towards the next topic, let's discuss that what is Gauss's law and what does it say. So this Gauss's law, it says that the amount of electric flux, that is phi E, because of an electric field E linked with the surface is equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the net charge enclosed by the surface. I'm repeating it again. The Gauss's law says that the total electric flux phi E, because of the electric field E linked through a surface, is equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the net charge enclosed by the surface. So the surface is enclosing some charge. We are interested in that charge only, and that also the net charge. Whatsoever be the amount of charge, total amount of charge enclosed by the surface, if we divide it by epsilon naught, we will be getting the value of phi E, that is the electric flux linked through that surface. So mathematically, I can be writing it like this, that mathematically, according to the Gauss's law, phi E is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. See, the Gauss law states the total electric flux, that is phi E, over any closed surface area is equal to, then phi is equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the net charge enclosed by the surface, where Q is the net charge or the total charge enclosed by the surface. So if the surface is enclosing lot amount of charge, we need to sum it up, find the net charge, and then divide it by epsilon naught. You will be getting the value of electric flux linked through that surface. Earlier in our previous class, we have learnt about a different formula for finding of the electric flux. That is the integration of electric field with the area vector, E dot ds integration, that can be giving you the total flux linked through a surface. All right. So combining both the formulas, we can easily be writing this thing, that now the electric flux can be expressed as phi E is equal to E dot ds integration. This is from our previous class. And by Gauss's law, this phi E is also equal to Q upon epsilon naught. When you expand this dot product, that is A dot B is equal to AB cos theta. Similarly, E dot ds becomes E ds cos theta, where theta is the angle between electric field E and your ds vector, that is a small area vector. All right. So please note this formula. This is really very important. We will be using it a lot. We will be using it a lot in the derivations that we'll be doing. So this electric flux linked with the surface, it is given as the integration of E dot ds. This I have made you understand in the previous class. And now this phi E is also equal to Q upon epsilon naught, where Q is the total charge enclosed by the surface. If we divide the charge with epsilon naught, that is the permittivity of the vacuum, then we will be getting the flux linked with the surface. So these two formula are now equal. This is because of the Gauss's law, and this is because of our previous class. We have learned this formula, that the integration of E dot ds, that is the electric field along with the area vector, gives you the electric flux. So now we can calculate the electric flux by using these two formula. First one, the E dot ds integration, other one is your charge divided by epsilon naught. All right. And here theta, what is this theta? Theta is the angle between electric field vector and your ds vector, that is the small area vector ds. So this formula we will be using when we will be doing the derivation for the Gauss's law, as well as the applications of the Gauss's law. So this is really very important. Please note down in your notebook. I hope that you have done. So let's move towards the next slide. And in the next slides to come, we will be using the Gauss's law, that how it can be utilized to find the electric flux linked through a surface. So I have given you 3 examples. So let's try to apply the Gauss's law in those examples. Okay. Applying Gauss's law. Example number 1, it says this thing, that consider a random closed surface with the charges as shown in the figure. So this is our closed surface marked with the blue boundary. All right. And it has the charges that are placed as 2 coulomb, minus 3 coulomb, 4 coulomb, 7 coulomb, minus 5 coulomb at different parts of this closed surface. We need to find the electric flux linked through this surface. So we can be using the Gauss's law. The electric flux linked through the surface can be can easily be obtained by using the Gauss's law. So that is phi E is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. And what is Q? Q is the total charge enclosed by the surface. So total charge means you need to sum all these charges. Make a sum of all these charges. So Q becomes what? 2 minus 3 plus 4 plus 7 minus 5. All the charges are being summed up in place of this Q. This is the total charge enclosed by the surface. And it comes out to be 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 7 is 13. 13 minus 8 comes out to be 5. So the total flux linked with this surface, it comes out to be 5 upon epsilon naught. It's very simple problem, very easy to understand also. Just find the charge which is enclosed by the surface, add all the charges, find the total charge enclosed by the surface and divide it by epsilon naught. You will be getting the flux linked with the surface. I do hope it is really very easy and simple to apply. So you can easily be finding it out. Let's do one more example and try to find out the electric flux linked with one another surface. So this is my example number 2. In this example 2, we are being given the same closed surface and we need to find the electric flux that is linked through this closed surface. So there are different amount of charges present, Q1, Q2, Q minus Q3, minus Q5, Q7, Q4, minus Q6. We are interested only in the charges that are enclosed by the surface, because the Gauss's law says that the electric flux linked through a surface is equal to the total charge enclosed by the surface divided by epsilon naught. So the total charge will have to be enclosed by the surface. We are not interested in the charge that is present outside the surface. Whatever be the amount of charge present inside the surface and that is enclosed by the surface, that is our charge of interest. So here we should not be paying any attention to the charge that is present outside the surface. So you can see it. The flux linked through the surface is given by Gauss's law, and it is equal to phi E is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. That is the formula of the Gauss law. We need to find this Q. And what is this Q? Sum up all the charges that are present inside the surface. Okay. So inside the surface, these are the charges that are present. Q1 is present. Q2 is present. Minus Q3 is present. Minus Q5 is present. Q7 is present. That is of plus sign. And the charges Q6, minus Q6 and Q4, they are outside. So we are not taking it up. So this is the total flux linked with the surface. Always remember this thing, that we need to take the charges that are present inside the surface, or in other words, that are enclosed by the surface. That are the charges of interest. Other charges present outside the surface that have no use in the calculation of the net charge enclosed by the surface, that can be utilized in the Gauss's law. All right. So this is the total flux linked with the surface. These two problems were really very simple, just to make up the tempo that you people should be understanding something. Now let's take a problem that is somewhat complex and try to find out the electric flux linked through the surface. Let's take one another problem, and this is your problem number 3 or example 3. It is also the example 1.11 of your NCERT textbook. In your NCERT textbook, this example is being given. They have solved it in a very different manner over there. So I thought that I should be solving it in a very simple manner so that you people should be able to understand it out. And based on this thing, your homework is to solve example 1.12. So please solve that example on your own, and let's do this problem. The problem says this thing, that the electric field components in the figure are Ex, that is the electric field along x direction. It is given as alpha x to the power half. This is alpha, not a. Ex is equal to alpha x to the power half, and Ey and Ez, they are equal to 0. It means no electric field is present in the y and z direction. The value of alpha is given as 800 Newton per Coulomb meter to the power half. Calculate the flux through the cube and the charge within the cube. Assume that side of the cube is equal to 0.1 meter. All right, it should be side. E is missing in this. So we need to find it out. Let's try to solve it out. See, we are given the electric field, and electric field is in the x direction only. The value is alpha x to the power a. What is this x? This x is the distance. This x is the distance along the x-axis. So whatever be the value of this, say this is our x-axis. So this x is the distance. It means the electric field is depending on the length x. It depends on the length x. And that's why we can say that it is length dependent or dependent on the distance. Along the y and z axis, electric field component is 0. The value of alpha is given to you. Let's try to solve it out. Please solve this problem in your copy alongside. Please do that. Let's do the solution. First, we calculate the electric flux through the cube by using the formula phi E is equal to E dot ds. We know this thing, that the electric flux linked through any surface is given as E dot ds. All right. And here we are having 6 surfaces. We are having 6 surfaces. A cube has 6 surfaces. One is on the top, other one at the bottom. One is the side one that is marked with blue. Another is the side one marked with blue color. And one is the front one and then the back side. So it is having 6 surfaces. So we will be having 6 area vectors. This ds will be divided into 6 parts. All right. And the electric field, it is having 3 components along the x-axis, along the y-axis, and along the z-axis. So I can be easily writing this electric field like this. So this electric field can be split up into 3 parts: electric field along the x-axis plus electric field along the y-axis plus electric field along the z-axis. All right. So I have written it like this: electric field along x-axis plus electric field along y-axis plus electric field along z-axis. And it has a dot product with your area vector ds. Okay. Moving ahead. See, there are 6 area vectors. One is ds1 from this marked with blue color. Other one is ds2 from this surface marked with blue color. The third one will be like this. Let me give you the direction of the third one. The third one will be like this from the top surface. All right. This is ds3. One from the bottom surface, that is ds4, and one coming outward. I can't draw it because it's in 3D. So one is coming outward towards the z-axis, that is the plus z-axis, and one is going backward, that is towards the minus z-axis. There are 6 area vectors. Okay. But the area vectors, which is this one marked with blue one that I have drawn, and one in the bottom, one of the top, one of the plus z-axis and one of the minus z-axis, they are making an angle of 90 degree with the electric field. You can see it. The angle between electric field and this ds vector is 90 degree. Similarly, with this ds vector from the bottom side and this electric field, it will be 90 degree. Same is the case with the 2 area vectors coming from the front side and the back side, that is along the positive z-axis and the negative z-axis, it will be 90 degree. And we know this thing, that the dot product of E dot ds is E ds cos theta, and cos 90 is 0. So whatever be the electric flux linked with the top, the bottom, the front and the back surface will be 0, because the angle between the area vector and the electric field is 90 degree. And due to that angle, due to 90 degree angle, the dot product comes out to be 0 only. So we are not taking those areas. All right. So only there are 2 area vectors, that is ds1, that is this side, and ds2, that is along this side, that is making an angle of 0 degree and 180 degree respectively with the electric field Ex. You can see this is the direction of electric field. Direction of electric field is towards the x-axis. Direction of ds1 is also towards the x-axis. So the angle between ds1 and E is 0 degree. ds2 is towards the negative x-axis and electric field is towards the positive x-axis. The angle between electric field and ds2 is 180 degree. All right. So that's why we are taking only these 2 areas, because other area vectors, they are making an angle 90 degree with the electric field. And when you solve the dot product with 90 degree, it comes out E ds cos 90. And cos 90, you know that it is 0. So no flux will be contributed by those surfaces which are making an angle 90 degree with the electric field. All right. Now let's solve the question. So this is what we have done. Phi E is equal to integration of Ex dot ds that we have obtained from the previous slide. Now let's try to solve it out. Flux linked with the surface of the cube towards phi 2, that is the left, towards left is phi 2. So this is my left surface, that is ds2. The area vector coming out from it is ds2. So we need to find the flux linked with this surface of the cube, and we have marked it as phi 2. So phi 2 will be equal to E electric field having a dot product with ds2. All right. Since we are talking with this surface only, we are taking it at ds2 only. The area vector for this surface is ds2. So the dot product of the electric field with this ds2, it can be written like this. And when you expand the dot product, you will be getting Ex ds2 cos theta. And in place of Ex, you can easily be writing alpha x to the power half. This Ex is what? Alpha x to the power half. So I have written in place of this alpha x to the power half. ds2 is ds2 and cos theta, because Ex ds2 cos theta. So I have just AB cos theta based on the dot product expansion. I have expanded out. In place of this Ex, I have written alpha x to the power half. ds2 is ds2 only. And there is one cos theta, because when you are solving this dot product, A dot B comes out to be AB cos theta. So we need to write this cos theta. And what is the angle between Ex and ds2? It is 180 degrees. So I should be writing it like this. In place of x, I have replaced A. Why so? Because the distance of this surface from our origin is A. So this surface is at origin A, that is distance x-axis over here is A. So in place of this x, I have written A. I do hope it is clear. In place of this x to the power half, I have written A to the power half. Why so? Because the distance of this surface from which we are calculating the electric field, electric flux, is A. One question is being asked, so let me answer that question first. Yes, who is this? Please go ahead with your question. Who is Suresh Kumar? Please go ahead with your question. Yes, please. Ask what you want to ask.
Sir, please repeat it again.
Okay, from where you have...
Anamika.
Okay, Anamika. I'm repeating it again. Fine.
Okay, sir.
See, we need to find the electric flux linked with this surface. So the electric flux linked with this surface is given by the formula Ex dot ds2, and the dot product of two vectors is given by AB cos theta. In place of this Ex, I can be writing this thing alpha x to the power half, because it is given in the question. ds2 remains same, and in place of cos theta, I should be writing cos theta only. And the theta is the angle between the electric field and the ds2 vector. Electric field is in the positive x-axis and ds2 is in the negative x-axis. So they are having an angle of 180 degree between them. That's why in place of theta I have written 180 degree. And in place of x, I have written A, because the distance of this surface from our origin is A. See, it has been given in the question, it is A. I do hope it is clear. So I have written in place of x, I have written A to the power half, and alpha x to the power half is in place of Ex, because it is given in the question that Ex is equal to alpha x to the power half. All right. Cos 180 is -1. So I can be writing in place of cos 180, I should be writing -1. So minus is taken out of the integral. Also, alpha a to the power half, we can take out of the integration. And why so? Because it is a constant. And we need to integrate only this surface. So the integration of a small area vector from this surface is the area of this surface. That is, I have written it with S, area of this part of the cube, or this surface of the cube, and that is equal to A square. We know this thing, that area of a square is A square, the side square, A multiplied by A. So in place of this S, I can easily be writing A square, because where S is the area of the surface 2, and this surface, it is having an area A square. So I can be writing it like this. So it should be A square. Solving it out, this is A square, this is A to the power half. So it is equal to minus alpha A to the power 5 by 2. All right. This phi 2, that is the flux linked with this surface, that is surface 2, is come out to be minus alpha A to the power 5 by 2, because A to the power half plus A to the power 2, when you solve it out, you have to add the power, and 2 plus half is 5 by 2. All right. So this is my flux linked with surface 2. Now let's try to find out the flux that is linked with surface 1, where the small area vector is ds1. Try to find it out. The flux, total flux linked through the surface of the cube towards right, that is phi 1. This phi 1 is what? Ex dot ds1. Whatever be the value of electric field, have a dot product with the area vector ds1. All right. So it can be written as Ex ds1 cos theta. In place of Ex, you can be writing alpha x to the power half. So that's what I have written. In place of Ex, I have written alpha x to the power half. ds1 remains same, and cos of the angle between Ex and ds1. What is the angle between Ex and ds1? It is 0 degree, because electric field is in this direction towards the right, and the ds1 vector is also in the positive x-axis direction. The angle between the electric field and the ds1 vector comes out to be 0 only. So we can be writing it like this. In place of x, I should be writing 2a, because the distance of this surface from our origin is 2a. Earlier in place of x, we have written a, because the distance of the surface was a, but now the distance of surface is 2a. So in place of this x, I should be writing 2a. Again, I am telling you, in place of x, I should be writing 2a. And why so? Because the distance of this surface from our origin is 2a. All right. So that's what I have written. And the angle was 0. So cos 0 is 1. Cos 0 is 1. So we can easily be writing it like this, that alpha 2a to the power half can be taken out of the integration, because these are the constants, and we need to integrate the ds1 vector. It should be ds1. It should be ds1. Please make it ds1. I hope you have completed up to over here. It should be ds1. So integration of this ds1 is capital S, and which is equal to the area of the surface 1. And this is equal to a square. We know this thing. The area of surface of a square, it comes out to be side multiplied by side. That is a multiplied by a. So in place of this s, I can be writing a square. So phi 1 comes out to be alpha 2a to the power half a square. And when you solve it out, this 2 to the power half can be written as root 2, and a to the power half multiplied by a square comes out to be a to the power 5 by 2. So you can be writing this as this. So this is your final expression for flux phi 1, that is the flux linked through the surface of the cube towards the right. Again, I am telling you, I have written 2 to the power half as root 2, and a to the power half, on solving it with a square, it comes out to be a to the power 5 by 2. Okay. I do hope it is really very clear to you. Now moving towards the total flux. So the total flux linked with this cube is phi, and that is the sum of the flux through this surface and this surface, that is equal to phi 1 plus phi 2. The total flux linked through the cube. Now I am talking about the cube. Earlier we were finding the individual flux of the surfaces. Since this cube is having 6 surfaces, we need to find the flux through each surface, and the 4 surfaces, they are making an angle 90 degree with the electric field. The area vector of those 4 surfaces, they are making an angle 90 degree with the electric field. That's why the contribution of the flux through those surfaces comes out to be 0 because cos 90 is 0. Then we are left with only two surfaces. We have found the electric flux through the second surface. We have found the electric flux through the first surface. Now add them up to find the total flux linked with this cube. So just adding them up. Phi 1 was this. You have written it in your notebook. It is alpha root 2 a to the power 5 by 2. And phi 2 was minus alpha a to the power 5 by 2. Take alpha a to the power 5 by 2 as common. And you are left with root 2 minus 1. I have taken alpha a to the power 5 by 2 common. And you are left with root 2 minus 1 inside the bracket. The value of root 2 is 1.414. And when you subtract 1 from it, you will be getting 0.414. So in place of this, I can be writing 0.141, 0.414. And alpha, it is given you 800. The value of alpha is given in the question. It is 800. And the value of A is 0.1. You know this. It is given in the question. The side of the cube is 0.1 meter. So in place of this A, you can be writing 0.1 meter. In place of alpha, you can be writing 800. And in place of root 2 minus 1, you should be writing 0.414. So the equation comes like this. Alpha is 800, A is 0.1, and on this on solving, it comes out to be 0.414. When you solve this out, you will be getting phi is equal to 1.05 Newton meter square per coulomb. So this is the total flux linked with this cube. So this is the first part of the question that we have completed. The total flux linked through the cube. All right. But now the second part says that we need to find the charge within the cube. We need to find the charge within the cube. So the charge within the cube can be obtained by using the Gauss's law. Gauss's law says this thing that the total flux linked through a closed surface area is equal to Q upon epsilon naught, where Q is the total charge enclosed by that surface. Now we need to find this Q, that is the charge enclosed by my cube. So what I'll be doing, I should be multiplying the flux with epsilon naught. So the total charge enclosed by the cube is the total flux linked with the cube multiplied by epsilon naught. All right. And you know the value of epsilon naught. It is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. Multiply it with the flux linked with the cube, and flux we have just calculated in our previous part, that is equal to 1.05. So when you multiply this epsilon naught, that is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12 with this phi that we have just calculated in our previous part, that is 1.05, you will be getting the total charge enclosed by the cube, and it comes out to be 9.27 multiplied by minus 12 coulomb. I do hope that it is very much clear to you. If you are still having any doubt, you can be please asking me it. Please ask. Let's move towards the next part of the topic that we have to learn today, that is the application of the Gauss's law. And the first application that we need to learn is the electric field due to an infinitely long, straight, uniformly charged wire. So what we are having, earlier we were finding the electric field by the discrete charges. If 2 charges, 3 charges, or 4 charges are placed somewhere, and we need to find the electric field because of those charges, we will be doing that. But what happens if we are having an infinitely long straight rod or straight wire that is carrying a charge which is uniformly distributed over it? Then what will be the electric field because of the presence of that wire at a given point? That we need to find. And we will be doing it with the help of Gauss's law. Please do it along with me in your notebook. Otherwise, you are not able to understand it up. Okay? So let's start. Consider a uniformly charged wire of infinite length having a constant linear charge density lambda, that is charge per unit length. So this is my positively charged infinitely long wire. Okay. and it is having a linear charge density lambda. That is, the charge in its unit length is lambda. This lambda is what? Q upon L that I have told you. All right. The linear charge density is Q upon L. So we have considered this thing that we are having a uniformly charged wire and the length of this wire is infinite and it is having a constant linear charge density that is lambda. All right. Please draw this wire as well as the diagram. Otherwise you won't be able to understand it up. Let P be a point at a distance R from the wire and E be the electric field at that point. So we are given a point P which is situated at a distance R from this given wire, and we need to find the electric field E at that point because of this wire. Earlier we were finding the electric field because of the discrete charges, 1 charge, 2 charge, 4 charge, but now we are given a straight wire and the charge is present all over this wire, and because of that charge distribution I need to find the electric field at a point P which lies at a distance R from it. So you can see it. So it is my point P. This is my point of interest and it is situated at a distance R from this wire. All right. Now, in order to apply the Gauss's law, we need to take a Gaussian surface, because Gauss's law can be applied only in a closed surface. It gives the flux linked to a closed surface. So in order to apply it, we need to choose a Gaussian surface. And the choice of Gaussian surface is random. We can choose any surface which we want, but we should be able to calculate the surface area of that surface that we have chosen. Otherwise, the problem becomes very cumbersome. So based on different symmetries and ease of solving of the problem, we choose different surfaces. For this, we have chosen Gaussian surface as a cylinder of radius R and length L such that the point P lies on its surface. So this is our Gaussian surface. You can see it. This is our Gaussian surface. It is a cylinder of length L and radius R such that the point P, this is our point of interest at which we need to find the electric field. This point P lies on the surface of the Gaussian surface that we have chosen. All right. So this is the Gaussian surface. Please draw it in your notebook. So this is my Gaussian surface. The length of the cylinder is L and the radius is R. All right. The electric field from this given wire will be coming out from the wire. Why so? Because it's a positively charged wire, and from a positively charged wire, the electric field should be coming out from it, externally outwards, radially outwards from it. So it will be like this. All right. The electric field direction should be like this. It is coming out of the positively charged wire. See, from this positive charge outwards, this is also positive charge outwards, positive charge outwards, positive charge outwards. So the electric field looks like this, which is being marked by the red lines. So this is the direction of electric field. All right. Now we are having three surfaces of this Gaussian surface. One is the top one, other one is the bottom one, and the third one is the middle one, that you call as curved surface area. That you call as curved surface area. All right. So we are having three surfaces for this Gaussian surface. One is the top surface, other one is the bottom surface, and the third one is the middle one that you call as a curved surface area of the cylinder. All right. Now, from each of these surfaces, there must be some area vectors. So let's try to find out the area vectors from each of these surfaces. This is my area vector from the curved surface area. It is ds1 and it will be always perpendicular to the surface. So this is my surface. It is coming out of the surface. All right. So this is the direction. ds1 is the direction of the small area vector from the curved surface area of the cylinder. Similarly, ds2 is the direction from the bottom surface area. It will be perpendicular to the surface. So this is perpendicular to the surface. All right. And ds3 is the area vector from the third surface, that is the top surface of the cylinder. So all these surfaces, they are having some area vectors which are perpendicular to these surfaces, and the direction of those area vectors I have specified, one with the purple line, that is ds1, the curved surface area vector. The area vector of the bottom surface is ds2 marked by green line, and ds3, that is the top surface, marked with dark green line. So these are the three area vectors. Now we can easily be writing ds1, ds2 and ds3. They are the area vectors of the surfaces 1, 2 and 3 respectively. Because in order to find the electric flux, we need the area vector. All right. Now, moving ahead. So I do hope that you have made this diagram in your notebooks. Total flux linked by the Gaussian surface, it is given by phi e, that is equal to integration of E dot ds. All right. And this ds, it can be splitted into three parts. Why so? Because they are having three area vectors. One is of the top surface, other one is of the bottom surface, and then one of the curved surface area of the cylinder. So we can split this ds into three parts like this. That is the integration of E dot ds1 plus integration of E dot ds2 plus integration of E dot ds3. All right. What I have done is that I have splitted this ds vector into three area vectors because the Gaussian surface was having three area vectors. One is of the top, one is of the bottom, and one is of the middle. All right. So three surfaces were there. So from three surfaces, we have found out three area vectors. And now the total flux linked with the Gaussian surface can be obtained by the flux linked by each of the individual surfaces and then adding them out. So I've just added them up. E dot ds1 plus E dot ds2 plus E dot ds3. Now, when you open up the dot product, it comes out to be A dot B is equal to AB cos theta. So E dot ds1 will be what? E dot ds1 cos theta. Similarly, E dot ds2 will be E dot E ds2 cos theta, and E dot ds3 will be E ds3 cos theta. All right. So I can be writing it like this. See, after this, you need to write this. Say, here it is. Come over here. So that is equal to E ds1 cos 0. Why? Because the electric field and the area vector, they are along the same direction. And that's why the angle between the electric field and the area vector ds1 is 0 degree. That's why I have written cos 0. Similarly, E dot ds2 will be E ds2 cos theta, and the angle between ds2 and this is 90 degree. All right or not? It is 90 degree. You can see this is the area vector downwards and the electric field is towards the right. So you can see this angle is 90 degree. So E ds2 cos 90. Similarly, when we expanding this dot product, that is E dot ds3, it will be E ds3 cos 270, because now the angle will be 270 degree. All right. We know this thing that cos 90 and cos 270 is 0. So the flux contribution from the top and the bottom surface comes out to be 0. So I can be easily writing it as phi E is equal to E I have taken out because electric field is uniform, and integration of ds1, because cos 0 is 1. In place of this quantity I have written 0, and in this place of this quantity I have written 0. E ds3 cos 270 and E ds2 cos 90 is 0, because cos 90 and cos 270 is 0. So you can be easily writing it up. The total flux linked through the Gaussian surface is phi E is equal to E integration of ds1. That's all. The integration of ds1. All right. So the integration of ds1 is the integration of the curved surface area of the cylinder, and we all know the curved surface area of cylinder of length L is 2 pi RL. So when I integrate it up, this ds1, it will be equal to the curved surface area of the cylinder, and that is equal to 2 pi rl. From our maths, we know this thing, that the curved surface area of a cylinder, it comes out to be 2 pi rl, where L is the height of the cylinder. All right. So integration of this ds1 is the total curved surface area, that is equal to 2 pi rl, and this is our equation number 1. This is our equation number 1. Please mark it as 1. So the total flux linked through the Gaussian surface is equal to electric field E multiplied by 2 pi rl. So this is the flux linked with the Gaussian surface. Now, the total flux linked through the Gaussian surface can also be calculated by using the Gauss's law. And the Gauss's law says this thing, that the flux linked with the surface is equal to the total charge enclosed by the surface divided by epsilon naught. So we need to find out the total charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface, and if we are able to calculate that total charge, we should be dividing it by epsilon naught. We will be getting the value of the total flux. All right. Phi E is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. If somehow we will be getting this Q, we will be getting the value of phi E by dividing that Q with epsilon naught. So Q is the charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface. So you can see this thing, that this Gaussian surface is enclosing only length L of this infinitely long straight wire. This wire is infinitely long, but the Gaussian surface is only enclosing length L of this wire. And when it is enclosing length L of this wire, we can easily be using the formula Q is equal to lambda L, because lambda is the linear charge density. So in length L, what is the amount of charge present in length L? That is the charge present in the unit length multiplied by the length L. We know this lambda is equal to Q upon L. We know this thing. So Q becomes lambda into L. I'm explaining it again. Please pay attention that this Gaussian surface, it is enclosing the charge that is present in length L only. And we know this thing, that the linear charge density of this wire, that is the charge present in unit length, is lambda. So in unit length, if lambda charge is present, then what will be the charge that is present in L length? That is lambda multiplied by L. So the value of this Q, it comes out to be lambda into L. So in place of this Q, I should be writing this lambda L. The total flux linked with the Gaussian surface by Gauss's law comes out to be lambda L upon epsilon naught, where lambda is the linear charge density of this infinitely long straight charge wire. All right. So this is our equation number 2. Please mark it as equation number 2. I'm explaining it again to you, that why the value of this Q comes out to be lambda into L, because this Gaussian surface is enclosing only length L of this wire, and the charge present in length L is equal to the charge present in unit length multiplied by that length. All right. So that's why it comes out to be lambda into L, and place of Q we should be writing lambda L. All right. So this is phi E is equal to lambda L upon epsilon naught. This is equation number 2. Equation number 1 was also phi E. Equation number 2 was also phi E. So we can easily be equating these up. This is our equation. This was our equation number 1. At phi E is equal to E multiplied by 2 pi RL. From Gauss's law, we have calculated phi is equal to lambda L upon epsilon naught. Just equate these things out, because the left hand side of both these equations are equal. We can be writing E into 2 pi RL is equal to lambda L upon epsilon naught. This L gets cancelled out with this L, and you are left with the electric field is equal to lambda upon 2 pi R epsilon naught. So the electric field at a point P, which is at a distance R from this infinitely long straight uniformly charged wire, comes out to be E is equal to lambda upon 2 pi R epsilon naught. I'm again explaining it to you. I have just equated these two equations, and then I have cancelled this L with this L, and the value of E I needed to find out, because we need to find out the electric field due to an infinitely long straight uniformly charged wire. That was the application of the Gauss law. So we have utilized the Gauss law in order to calculate the electric field due to this infinitely long straight charged wire at a distance r from it. So you can see this thing that E has come out to be lambda upon 2 pi r epsilon naught, where lambda is the linear charge density of this wire, which is given to us earlier. All right. Now, very quickly, we should be drawing one graph. So this is the expression. This is the electric field at a distance r from an infinitely long straight uniformly charged wire. Very quickly, I should be drawing the graph between the electric field E and the distance r. We can see this thing that the electric field and this distance r is the point, distance of the point at which we need to find the electric field. They are inversely proportional to each other. As we move away from this wire, the value of the electric field intensity decreases because they are inversely proportional, and you move closer to it, it will increase. All right, you can see it. All the other quantities are constant. Lambda is constant, 2 pi is constant, epsilon naught is also constant. So E is inversely proportional to R. So you can be drawing the graph between E and R like this. So take this y-axis as electric field E and the x-axis as R, and the graph between E and R can be drawn like this. So it is decreasing graph because they are inversely proportional to each other. So when R is less, E is more, and when R is more, E comes out to be very less. All right. So this is the graph between the electric field intensity and the distance of the point at which we need to calculate the electric field. So this is all about today's class. I do hope that it is very clear to you. Just 2 topics are remaining from this chapter, that are the 2 applications of the Gauss law that we'll be taking later on. So this is all for today. Thank you very much for joining. And if you are having some doubt, you are open to ask the doubt. Please ask, raise hand. I'll be just answering you. Please. Thank you very much for joining, and feel free to mail me your queries at purvesh.kumar@dalmia vidyamandir.education, or you can also be mailing me purvesh.kumar@dalmiatrust.in. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Nice to be with you all. Stay safe, stay happy, and please do not move here and there. Always be at your homes. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And